IELTS speaking. In the exam, why can't I say what is in my mind? Do you know there are 3 solutions to say what is in your mind in front of the examiner? 3 solutions. So you can respond with a clear, strong, coherent answer that makes the examiner sit up and pay attention. Strong answers that show the examiner your true ability and get the score you honestly deserve. The ability to give a full presentation and express clearly what is in your mind using all the vocabulary you know, not just 10%. The skill to deliver smooth, confident, automatic answers that are easy to understand and are not simplified. And best of all, when you start preparing like this, you won't need to spend a lot of money with a tutor. And you'll finally be certain that you're preparing for IELTS the right way. Before I share these 3 techniques, I'd like you to know why so many IELTS students take test after test after test. Why don't they say what is in their mind? Why do they speak at band 7 or higher with friends and then talk at band 6 in the exam? Why do so many students fail to show their true ability? What stops them from speaking automatically and clearly? The answer to these IELTS questions is how they prepare. You see, normal exam preparation might just focus on learning lists of useful vocabulary or idiomatic expressions, but unless you actually start using them, it's near useless. A lot of students watch videos about useful words and phrases, but get very little opportunity to put it into practice. They watch lots of movies and read books and TED Talks, or worse, they take test after test after test. So what are the 3 steps to saying what is in your mind and having a successful IELTS exam? Number 1, combine both language skills and exam skills. Number 2, move your passive vocabulary into your active vocabulary. Number 3, relentless practice. Having a great exam and passing IELTS with the score you truly deserve is nothing more than getting familiar with the exam and moving the English you have in your passive vocabulary into your active vocabulary. When you do this, all the vocab you know, understand and recognize in movies, books and online starts to become your active vocabulary. Building this ability then gives you the best possible foundation for the exam. In a minute, I'll explain more about active and passive vocabulary and exam skills, but let me mention that if you're in a hurry, you may want to look at the IELTS Speaking Confidence course. On the course, there are more tips and quick fixes to common issues so you can impress the examiner with confident, fluent answers. You can get familiar with the exam, the format, and the questions, and you can also get used to different examiner accents so there's no misunderstandings on exam day. It will provide you with a system for fluent, coherent answers, and you can test your pronunciation and you get feedback that pushes you to improve. Who's the course for? The IELTS Speaking Confidence course is for students who need to boost their confidence, improve their fluency and pass IELTS. Now, let me explain more about language skills and exam skills, and of course, active and passive vocabulary. This is one reason why exams such as the IELTS are quite difficult. Not only do you have to develop your language skills, you also have to develop your exam skills. An example of one of the exam skills you need is the ability to speak for 2 minutes without stopping. Now, this is probably a challenge even in your own language. And this is why it's important to be familiar with the concept of active and passive vocabulary. Now, you can probably read books, advanced books, you could probably watch films and understand everything, follow conversations and watch everything. However, when it comes to the exam, you fall flat. What is happening here is that your receptive skills, listening and reading, are ahead of your productive skills, speaking and writing. And this is totally normal. Do not worry about this. This is exactly how you learned your own language. First, you probably listened, then you probably started speaking, then reading, and then writing. However, when it comes to English, for some reason, it's taught in a complete reverse, and more often than not, we start with writing, possibly speaking, then later reading and listening, which is completely unnatural. Recognizing vocabulary in films and books is fantastic. It's a great skill and it's a great place to work from for improving your language skills. This means we have a large passive vocabulary. But when we want to speak or use this vocabulary, sometimes we find it's not there. We can't communicate what's in our mind, although we know exactly what we want to say. This is very common for English language learners, and it's intensified when the topic we're talking about is unfamiliar. You see, when you're talking with a friend or a family member, you're probably talking about a familiar topic. You've probably had the conversation a few times before. A topic about work, a topic about your hobby or your interest. And that's one of the reasons why this vocabulary has moved into your active vocabulary. And this is the reason why you can speak automatically, smoothly, and clearly. And you've got very little problems in communicating what's in your mind. Now, if I ask you to talk about a subject that you're not so familiar about, if I ask you to talk about musical instruments, and even if I ask you to talk in your own language about musical instruments, maybe after about 10, 20, 30 seconds, you'll start to slow down, you'll start to and ah. And the reason why is because this is a topic that you're not so familiar about, unless you're a musician, of course. And this is what I'm talking about. When we speak in a second language and we're not familiar with the topic, then the challenge is intensified. The new app that we're developing at IELTS Podcast deals with this exact problem, and I'm quite excited about it. And if you want to learn more about it, just click in the link below. So going back to exam skills and language skills, in part 3, it starts getting a little abstract. The examiner is going to start asking you about topics that you may be unfamiliar with. Musical instruments, for example. Do you think it's important for children to play musical instruments? Next question. Why do you think it's important for children to play musical instruments? Why do you think it's important for children to start playing musical instruments at a young age? So one exam skill that we need to bring this vocabulary into our active vocabulary is to get familiar with a wide range of topics. This familiarity makes your answers smooth, automatic, and much quicker. And most importantly, because your answers are like flowing, you'll be able to communicate what's inside your head. So to get there, there's 3 ways. 1, you can have a look at the app that I just mentioned. 2, you can have a look at the online speaking course. And 3, you can do what we're going to look at now, which is moving vocabulary from our passive into our active vocabulary. The Echo 10 technique is a very useful technique, even if you've got a speaking partner or an IELTS tutor. I still recommend you to use this technique. And the reason is because it's very effective for bringing or for transferring passive vocabulary into our active vocabulary domain. Also, its effectiveness is amplified if we use it with IELTS materials, because there is a possibility or a strong possibility that the phrases that you're repeating will be used or can be used in the exam. Now, what we're going to do is listen to a mock speaking exam, part 2. And as you know, part 2, usually is one of 6 areas. It could be describe a person, describe an object, describe a place, describe an activity, describe your favorite book, film, magazine, or describe an event, festival, concert, celebration. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a location. We're going to talk about a place. So you'll see the text on the screen, and what I would like you to do is after you hear it, you can repeat it. And if you don't want to read it, then you can just put your hand over the screen, or just don't look at the screen, or just close your eyes. Either way, there'll be a small pause between each slide. I'm going to describe a place I went to last year. It's a small city in Ukraine. It's called Lviv. It's got beautiful architecture. It's not the typical industrial hard Soviet style. It's more the quaint, typical medieval European style. The place is called Lviv, and it's really a delightful city. People are usually quite friendly, and in the cafes, the customer service is interesting. I have to admit, when I went there, the people were really friendly and they were really open. They introduced me to more friends and their family. They even took me on expeditions into the Carpathian Mountains. I remember once, actually, we went up to the mountains and we went on this old ski lift and right up into the mountains. And we could see all around, and it was spring as well, so we had a really good view. It was clear, and yeah, it was just a really enjoyable experience. Another interesting point is that at the moment it's rather cheap, especially if you're spending euros there. I think this is because of the unfortunate conflict on the western side at the moment. There's been a lot of political instability, and it's caused the currency to fall, making it rather cheap for foreign people going there. And that's my small presentation about a place I've been to. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, for that speech, I used the Reflect and Fill 6 method. This is a method that gives you 6 pointers or concepts to think about while you're doing your talk. And it just helps you expand your answer, and it's especially useful if you struggle to meet 2 minutes. I'll give you an example. So we talked about the details, the mountains, the ski lifts, the contrasts. It was cheaper than Western Europe. The reason why was because of the conflict. This was the because. My feelings there, the people were really friendly. For example, they took me to the mountains. That's my small story. The question words: who, what, why, when, where, how. Well, it was last year. I think I mentioned that. Who, the locals there were friendly. Why were they friendly? They took me to the mountains. What did we do there? Ski lift. And those are just ideas or like triggers to help you come up with more content. You don't have to follow this exact structure step by step. It's just useful to help you, to guide you, to give a more expansive or fuller answer. Now we've reached the end of the tutorial. Thank you for watching all of this. If you like the video, please give us a thumbs up, and also tell us in the comments below which technique you're going to use and how it helps you. And as I said before, if you want to advance faster, you can have a look at the app that's going to be launched soon, or you can have a look at the course, which has already started and it's proving very popular. All the best.